My name is Jimmy Ogle. I've lived in Memphis all my life, which is about 66 years at this filming right now, and I've worked in downtown Memphis for 40 years as of this year. I was first here at Tom Lee Park over here for the Memphis Park Commission. We started having festivals down here in 1983. I helped open Handy Park on Beale Street, tried to learn how to sell beer in parks in downtown Memphis. In '85, I came to Mud Island, was the general manager here for 8 years, and then 5 years at Memphis Riverboats, 3 years at Beale Street with Performa. Opened the Memphis Rock and Soul Museum for the Smithsonian Institution, the Gibson Guitar Factory, and the last 5 or so years I was the dock master at Beale Street Landing when we reinvented the overnight passenger vessel business, and then right after that I became the duck master at the Peabody Hotel. So I went from dock master to duck master, And so it's been 40 years of parks and recreation and tourism, a lot of events, a lot of concerts, a lot of visitors, a lot of media, a lot of stars, a lot of stories to tell. And 10 years ago, I just started on my own doing walking tours in downtown Memphis on a bet with the Downtown Memphis Commission, and it's turned out to parlay me into being the Shelby County historian, and knowing a lot about information in Memphis and giving tours. So I learn something new every day because there's always plenty to learn about Memphis, Tennessee, and there's no city in America that tells a story of American history better than Memphis, Tennessee, good, bad, or ugly. And we're happy to capture it in pictures, like with Don Newman, and happy to capture it on film here as well. The Downtown Memphis Commission had a program on Thursdays that was music and dance in Court Square, and I told them, you don't have a lecture or tour component to that. I'll do it for free for you. Just publicize me and give me a place. And they said, nah, we're just going to stick with the music and dance. And that kind of ruffled my feathers. I said, well, I could stand over on the riverfront and talk about the river. I bet you get 30 or 40 people. That'd be pretty cool. They said, no. I said, we call the river boats. I used to run them. They built those boats from scratch in their backyard. And they said, no. I said, well, how about a manhole cover tour? And they said, yes. Well, I didn't have a manhole cover tour. I lived downtown for 20 years and started seeing a bunch of manhole covers and taking pictures and comparing. And out of the 2,000 manhole covers or so that are downtown, there's about 157 different kinds, 3 different shapes, 7 different usages and all this stuff. And so they said yes. So then that night I wrote a manhole cover tour on Union Avenue from the riverfront to the Peabody Hotel. The manhole cover was the snag to get people to look, like make you look. And they put it on their website, and the commercial appeal called the next day and wanted to know if we're going down in the manhole covers. And I said, no, that'd be against the law, and I'd never do anything against the law. Come out and I'll show you what we're going to do. And they took pictures, and the next day it's big pictures of manhole covers in the newspaper. And the next day there was 91 people on the tour and 2 TV stations, twice as many people as in Court Square. So my bet was I had to give them 10 more tours of different parts of downtown that year if they would publicize me. They didn't have to pay me. They couldn't tell me what to say. So I wrote a Beale Street tour, Court Square, Pinch District, and started putting those together. Now there's 26 different 45-minute walking tours in downtown Memphis that sometimes become 3-hour tours stitched together. And one time we did a 10-hour tour of downtown Memphis that took 10 hours. So that also parlayed me into doing PowerPoint programs for the University of Memphis, continuing education, and then giving talks and tours around town and speaking to schools and senior living centers. And that's how it all got started, and that's where it is today. I've done about 250 talks and tours this year. I was asked, once I started the tours, it got pretty popular, so they asked me to be on the Shelby County Historical Commission as a member, and then the next year they made me chairman, and then a couple of years later the Shelby County historian passed away, and that's a position that was created by the state for every county, and it was a lifetime appointment, so we didn't know how to succeed, so we had to research it, and then I got, again, I think by popularity, I had one history class in my life, so City Board of Commissioners, Shelby County Board of Commissioners they voted on me to be the Shelby County historian based on, I guess, my walking tour experience and lecture experience. I hadn't written a book, and don't teach classes really, so kind of a different approach. I didn't come from academia. I'm the 3rd Shelby County historian ever. Ellen Davies Rogers was the first, and she owned a historic property. And then, of course, Ed Williams, a county commissioner and an author and a great historian, was the 2nd. So the position's been around since 1965. Again, it's appointed by the legislative body, and that's of Shelby County, and that's how I got the job. There's not a job description. The person has to be a resident of the county. That's the only qualification. Like I say, you don't have to have a college degree or some of those other qualifying. And so you make the job what you want to make it, what you're interested in. How do you promote and preserve the history of Shelby County, whether it's through a historical marker program or giving talks and tours or, helping historic homes or creating awareness for our historic properties, or working with other history affinity organizations and promoting their cause, whether it's the Mingo chapter of the Daughters of 1812, you know, or Lemoyne class of 68 who wants to do a historical marker about their class, Memphis State Aid, you know, all these topics that you can get involved in and get historical markers made, plus give walking tours and informational tours. So you kind of make the job what you want it to be. But the number two things are the preservation and promotion and protection of our history here in Shelby County. A person comes to us with an idea they think is a great qualifying event, like right over here in this park, there's the Wedding of the Waters. Well, what the heck is that? Well, back in 1857, a train connected the Atlantic Ocean with the Mississippi River. Well, somebody's got to research it, document it, write a text, pay for it, the sponsoring agency pays for it, and if it's a qualifying event like that, then we vote on it, marker gets fabricated, we put it in the ground, get permission of the property owner, put it in the ground, whether it's the Lee Sisters on Main Street or Poplar Tunes or, you know, the Zip and Pippin in Liberty Land. There's all sorts of variety of historical markers out there of all subjects, and it just takes a sponsor, takes a text that's manageable on the space, and then documentation that's certified is truly an historical event or person. I'm on the Shelby County Historical Commission, the West Tennessee Historical Society, Davies Manor Association for the Davies Manor Plantation, Remember Liberty Land is one I'm on, Rural Heritage Trust of West Tennessee. And then I also get to work with other history organizations like the DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, or Victorian Village, or Mingo chapter of the War of 1812, Elmwood Cemetery. I'm not on the board there, but I get to a lot of history programs have been there. So there's a lot of opportunity to get involved and stretch yourself out all over the community, being involved in history. I hope we start focusing more on some of our troubles in Memphis. I hate to be negative about this, but I think we need to pay attention to our school systems and our education, crime, litter, blight, drugs is kind of what I say. That's more of a political statement than a historical statement. I hope we want to be able to include all of our history, make it a circle of history rather than taking sides like we do sometimes now. We've had a hard history here and in a rough and tumble town, and that's a part of our fabric. We talk about grit and grind now and soul and things like that. Well, those are real things, and that's a part of our makeup, good, bad, or ugly. Good, and bad and ugly, two of those three things are not so good, but somehow we've survived. We've done many things that have helped change the world, from self-service groceries or overnight package delivery by air to hotel, motel franchises, you know, and medical advancements. And I hope we can continue to do things like that. We have some growth industries here in Memphis in medicine and in transportation and development. Hope we can get along a little bit better between the races. We've always been a tale of two cities, it seems like to me. I mean, I grew up during the desegregation phase of our public schools, and played on some of the first teams that white schools played black schools in athletics here. You know, and the way we even did that in the 1960s was integrate sports in Memphis. We did it with track and field and not contact sports, you see what I mean, to make it go a little bit better. So the things I learned in the middle of the century that I live with now and get to talk about now, sometimes make me wish I could have taken a different path on a couple of things, but I didn't. I stayed with Parks and Recreation and Tourism, and you can't relive your life over again, but I hope the best for the third century coming up here. And there's many good points, and you just look right here what's going on in the mixture of buildings right here behind us. We come back here in 50 years, there'll be a whole different set of buildings over here in development, I think, that's going to be very positive. I think we have nothing but good things to go towards in the next century. Memphis should continue to talk about all of its history. When you look at our historical package here, heritage tourism, we're just about second to none in any community. When you look at the fabulous museums we got here, to start with the National Civil Rights Museum, the site of the most watershed moment in the history of our country is here on the site here. You go down to Graceland, the second most visited historical property in America. And all the changes that Elvis created with culture and rock and roll. You look at Beale Street, which is more of a tourist attraction now than what it was then, but you have the Withers Collection on Beale Street, you got the Center for Southern Folklore right beside it there, you got the Belts Museum of Genetic Art, has nothing to do with Memphis, but it's Americana. You have the Memphis Rock and Soul Museum from the Smithsonian, Sun, and Stax. Look at our music history here. That, again, no city can match this at all. And then you throw in our Hall of Fames. You throw in the National Ornamental Metal Museum or the Slave Haven Underground Museum over here at Burkle Estate, Victorian Village, Davies Manor, our art galleries, our zoo, the Pink Palace. All of a sudden you got a tourism pie here that's virtually a Disneyland in itself without the walls or the gated admission. You got to pay to get in all of them, but when you visit all these things and come down to our riverfront and take a riverboat ride. This is the only public local riverboat cruise between New Orleans and St. Louis. That's 1,300 miles of river. You can only get the Mississippi River in Memphis locally, an excursion trip, and that's very special right there. So what we offer is just an incredible mixture and variety and balance. But many of those things change the culture of the world. When you look at Beale Street and the music here, and then the civil rights movement, you know, it's been a great impact on our community and globally too.